Hello. The current system of education was designed, conceived, and structured for a different age. It was conceived in the economic circumstances of the Industrial Revolution and the intellectual culture of the Enlightenment. This is a quote from Sir Ken Robinson, who is an educational expert, and he gave a talk about how education should change. The education model that is used everywhere in the world was created in the 18th century and basically hasn't changed since then, even though our lives are very different than they were some 200-300 years ago. As Ken Robinson, I too believe that we need to change the way we educate. My name is Jana Palm, and I'm running a Swedish games accelerator called Stugan. I've been there from the very beginning, and I helped form this concept. All my life, I've been passionate about two things, games and education. And in a way, Stugan is connecting these two passions of mine. When I was growing up and I was going to school, as I believe most of you, I had subjects that I really liked, that I was interested in, and then subjects I didn't like as much. And I often found myself struggling to find the motivation to learn things I wasn't very interested in. I believe that for people to learn, they need to either find the subject interesting and fun, or they need to be motivated to learn that. Nowadays, we are stimulated from many sources all the time. The internet, our phones, games, computers. We basically stare on the screen all the time. We can, when we work, when we relax, when we communicate, we have the screen in front of us. This is a picture taken in a co-working space in Stockholm called Sub 46. And when you go there, you see people, they sit in front of the computers and they're working. And I always wonder, what is it that they're actually doing? What is their job? Because everybody looks like they're doing exactly the same thing. Yet these are some of the coolest startups in the world. And this picture can actually be taken anywhere in the world. If you go, say, in London to a co-working space there, you would see people doing exactly the same thing, but they would probably be doing some very different things. We spend most of our days looking into computers, yet the way we educate hasn't changed in decades. Kids still don't have compulsory computer educations at school, and we basically follow the old patterns of memorizing books and testing our knowledge when there's only, most of the time, only one correct answer. We don't encourage students to be creative, and we don't help them find the motivation to learn. Stugan is a Swedish non-profit games accelerator. We bring together 20 game developers, and together they spend 2 months out in the Swedish countryside in a cabin, and they work on their games there. The whole stay is free for the participants, and they don't give us any rights for their games. They own the games and the companies themselves. They don't need to share anything of that with us. And I think one of the cool things about Stugan is that it attracts some of the most talented people in the world, because they have nothing to lose in coming there. The concept was created by veterans from the games industry, from people who've been around for many years, and they feel like they want to give back and they want to help new talents get in the industry as well. We run Stugan for 2 months in the summer, and a month ago we just finished our second batch. We bring together 20 brilliant game developers, and together they spend 2 months in a cabin. This year we had 13 teams, so you can see some of the pictures from this year up here. In the beginning, everybody gets their desk where they work, but they're very free to work anywhere they like. So, like you see, some people prefer to work in a forest or on a rock in the river. We also don't have any office hours, so people are free to work whenever their body tells them to work. Some people like to work during the day, some people like to work during the night. They can do basically whatever they want. The only important thing for them to remember is that this is not a paid vacation for them. They are expected to work on their games and show and make some progress. I believe that one of the key things about education is the motivation. When we go through the applications and we're selecting the people who go to Stugan, we are aiming to have a diverse group. This year we had 20 people, and they came from different cultural backgrounds. They came from 14 different countries, and they also had a different level of experience. Some people just finished their schools, while some people have been in the industry for many years. And this really created a very nice and diverse group. And even though everybody has their own game they work on, we encourage them to collaborate and try to help each other out. And one of the way we do this is Friday sessions, as we call them. Basically, every Friday, 3 teams get to stand in front of everybody and talk about their game. And it usually goes like this. A team has 30 minutes, and they start talking about their game, and then they say, you know, guys, I have this problem, or I don't really know how to approach this issue. Do you have any idea how you could help me? And then the people, they say, well, yeah, I think you should do this, or I think you should do that, and I'll come to you afterwards, and I'll show you how you actually can do that. And people also organize spontaneous talks. They feel like they have something to share, something that other people can benefit from, and they just gather everybody and speak about something that might be interesting to other people. And the others are super eager to learn and listen to the new things. And also just the fact that they sit together there and they work side by side, other game developers like themselves. Often what happens is that indies, they work on their games while they sit at home alone, while here they spend basically every day 24/7 with other game developers like themselves. And they come to me and they say, this is really inspiring to me to be with other people like myself and see how other people work. That is actually similar to what I'm doing. And last but not least, we have mentors who come to Stugan. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that now as well. The mentors who come are some of the most experienced and high-profile people from the games industry, both Swedish and international. They come and we try to have broad areas of expertise. This year we had people with, or during the 2 years we had people covering different aspects of game development, like game design and how you make sounds and music. Then we have people who work with PR, like here on the bottom picture you can see Paul Brady. He's a PR guru. He came all the way from Colorado to help people form their PR strategy. And we also have journalists coming to Stugan, and they also talk about PR, but from a journalist point of view, so it's a different perspective. Then we also had a lawyer who works only with the Swedish games companies, so he also came to Stugan and talked about legal stuff. And these mentors, they come and they spend 1 to 3 days with us, typically. And they first start off with a presentation in front of everybody, and then they spend more time doing one-on-one sessions, which those are mostly very beneficial to the teams. But as much as the teams get out of the interaction with mentors, the mentors also give from interacting with the participants. As a non-profit, we don't have a huge budget, so the mentors come to Stugan on their own time and on their own expenses, and they feel like they get very inspired by that, and they get very energized when they're leaving. And I talked to a few mentors who came to me afterwards, and they said that what they didn't expect to happen was that when they came back to their work, they actually had a new perspective on their work, on how they should change the way they think about their work. And one great example for all, Clint Sue, he was a participant in Stugan 2015, the first year of Stugan. And Clint comes from the US, from Reno in Nevada. And before he came to Stugan, he had a completely different profession. He used to work in Hollywood with visual effects. And then he heard about Stugan, and he realized that game development is actually something he would like to do full-time. So he came up with a game concept, and he applied, and we liked his application video, so he got selected. And then he came to Sweden, and he spent the 2 months really actively learning a lot. He was preparing very thoroughly for each meeting with the mentor, and he would really try to make as much out of it as possible, and he learned a lot. This is Prism, the game he was working on at Stugan, and he released it in February, and this was also the first game that was ever released out of Stugan, and it was launched on the iOS, and it became very popular. It was featured in many countries in the world, and it even made the top 10 list of best-selling iOS apps, which is really incredible for him to come from a different profession, and then a year later, he has an app which is one of the top-selling apps. And he liked Sweden so much that he actually ended up moving to Sweden and started working in a games company in Stockholm. We also get a lot of journalists who come to Stugan, and here this is an article from a current issue of Edge, but we also had an article about Stugan in other publications like the Wall Street Journal, the Fortune magazine, and even in Playboy. But one thing that really stuck with me was I had a conversation with a journalist just before he was leaving, and he said something, and I quote, he said, "This is how all higher education should be like." And then he paused, and he was thinking for a little bit, and then he said, "No, wait, this is actually how all education should be like, period." You are here all obviously very accomplished already. You choose the career in games, which I think it means that you sign up for a lifelong learning in a very competitive environment. It is likely that games have helped you find motivation to learn some difficult things. But I think that games have a bigger purpose than just entertaining people. I think that games and interactive software should be used for people all over the world to learn complex things. And I think that we, game makers here, we should use our skills to create tools that education can use for learning and teaching in a way that is fun, just like playing your favorite game. Thank you very much.